Welcome again to another learning day in our English 8th class. I am your teacher in English, Arlene F. Chimlangco. For today, let us be amazed with a Japanese folk tale entitled The Story of the Aged Mother, written by Matsuo Basho. Let us see what are the objectives for today. For our focus skill, appreciate literature as a means of understanding the human being and the forces he or she needs to contend with. For our supporting skills, letter A, we are going to guess meanings of words through context clues. Letter B, we are going to note significant events of the selection read. To attain those objectives, we are going to do different learning tasks. And to start with, let us first do this learning task 1 entitled Picture Tells. What are we going to do? You are going to tell the idea implied by filling up the correct letters. Let us see the first picture. We have the picture of a mother and a child. What are the letters behind this? We have L, blank, blank, E. What idea do we have here? Correct. It's love. For the second picture, we have a book and a light. What are the letters behind this? Let us see. We have W, blank, S, blank, O, and M. What idea is implied here? Great! It's wisdom. What are the two words implied by those pictures? We have love and wisdom. These two words have something to do with our story for today. Are you ready? Before we proceed, let us first recall the meaning of folk tales. Folk tales are oral narratives that do not have a singular identifiable author. Just like the story of The Soul of the Great Bell, written by Lafcadio Ren. That is a Chinese folk tale. For better understanding of the story, let us do learning task 2 entitled Unlocking of Difficulties. Directions. Choose the meaning of the underlined word in the sentence from the word pool. Number 1. The poor farmer prepared to travel with food and gourd filled with cool, sweet water. What does gourd mean? Is it A, bottle, B, pumpkin, C, calabash, or D, melon? The correct answer is A, bottle. Number 2. Men thought him more cruel and more despotic than he actually was. Despotic means, is it A, autocratic, B, autistic, C, fanatic, or D, democratic? The correct answer is letter A, autocratic. What about for number 3? Sentence. His murder was an outrageous and barbarous act. The underlined word is barbarous? Is it letter A, good, B, benevolent, C, uncivilized, or D, democratic? Yes, it's letter A, uncivilized. Number 4. The president had a clear mandate about quarantine on this time of pandemic. Mandate. Is it A, order, B, saying, C, suggestion, or D, request? It's letter A, order. Number 5, the heralds were sent forward to announce the coming of a king. Heralds. Letter A, messengers, B, antagonists, C, opponents, or D, protagonists. The correct answer is letter A, messengers. Now that you knew the meanings of some of the difficult words in our story, I hope that you can use them in your own meaningful sentences. We are about to study the story of the Aged Mother by Matsuo Basho. Let's know something about the author. Matsuo Basho was a pseudonym for Matsuo Shaomon Munefusa. He was born in 1644 in Iga province in Japan. He was the most famous poet of the Edo period in Japan. He was also recognized as the greatest master of haiku until he died in November 28, 1694 in Osaka, Japan. To serve as a guide in understanding the story, you have to tell me what. What is the answer for this focus question? What was the cruel proclamation of the governor? You will answer that after viewing the story. It seems that you are very excited to know more about the story. Let us now do Learning Test 3, Watch and Learn. So we are going to watch the video with understanding. So be in your most convenient place, hold your pen and paper, and list down some important details of the story so that you will be ready with our Q&A portion later. Let's play the video now.
The Story of the Aged Mother, a Japanese folktale by Matsuo Basho. Long, long ago, there lived at the foot of the mountain a poor farmer and his aged widowed mother. They owned a bit of land which supplied them with food, and they were humble, peaceful, and happy. Shinano was governed by a despotic leader who, though a warrior, had a great and cowardly shrinking from anything suggestive of failing health and strength. This caused him to send out a cruel proclamation. The entire province was given strict orders to immediately put to death all aged people. Those were barbarous days, and the custom of abandoning old people to die was not uncommon. The poor farmer loved his aged mother with tender reverence, and the order filled his heart with sorrow. But no one ever thought a second time about obeying the mandate of the governor. So with many deep hopeless sighs, the youth prepared for what at the time was considered the kindest mode of death. Just at sundown, when his day's work was ended, he took a quantity of unwhitened rice, which is principal food for the poor, cooked and dried it, and tying it in a square cloth, swung and bundled around his neck, along with a gourd filled with cool, sweet water. Then he lifted his helpless old mother to his back and started on his painful journey up the mountain. The road was long and steep. The narrow road was crossed and recrossed by many paths made by the hunters and woodcutters. In some places they mingled in a confusing puzzle, but he gave no heed. One path or another, it mattered not. On he went, climbing blindly upward, ever upward towards the high bare summit of what is known as Ubatsuyama, the mountain of the abandoning of aged. The eyes of the old mother were not so dim, but that they noted the reckless hastening from one path to another, and her loving heart grew anxious. Her son did not know the mountain's many paths, and his return might be one of danger. So she stretched forth her hand, and snapping the twigs from bushes as they passed, she quietly dropped a handful every few steps of the way, so that they climbed. The narrow path behind them was dotted at frequent intervals with tiny piles of twigs. At last, the summit was reached. Weary and heart-sick, the youth gently released his burden and silently prepared a place of comfort as his last duty to the loved one. Gathering fallen pine needle, he made a soft cushion, and tenderly lifting his old mother therein, he wrapped her padded coat more closely about the stooping shoulders, and with tearful eyes and an aching heart, said farewell. The trembling mother's voice was full of unselfish love as she gave her last injunction. "Let not thine eyes be blinded, my son," she said. "The mountain road is full of dangers. Look carefully and follow the path which hold the piles of twigs. They will guide you to the familiar way farther down." The son's surprised eyes looked back over the path, then at the poor old shriveled hands all scratched and soiled by their work of love. His heart smote him, and bowing to the ground, he cried aloud, "O honorable mother, thy kindness trusts my heart. I will not leave thee. Together we will follow the path of twigs, and together we will die." Once more he shouldered his burden. How light it seemed now, and hastened down the path, through the shadows and the moonlight, to the little hut in the valley. Beneath the kitchen floor was a walled closet for food, which was covered and hidden from view. There the son hid his mother, supplying her with everything needful, and continually watching and fearing. Time passed, and he was beginning to feel safe, when again the governor sent forth heralds bearing an unreasonable order, seemingly as a boast of his power. He demanded that his subject should present him with a rope of ashes. The entire province trembled with a dread. The order must be obeyed, yet who in all Shinano could make a rope of ashes? One night, in great distress, the son whispered the news to his hidden mother. "Wait," she said, "I will think. I will think." On the second day she told him what to do. "Make rope twisted straw," she said. then stretch it upon a row of flat stones and burn it there on a windless night. He called the people together and did as she said. And when the blaze had died, behold, upon the stones, with every twist and fiber showing perfectly, lay a rope of white-head ashes. The governor was pleased with the wit of the youth, and praised greatly, but he demanded to know where he had obtained his wisdom. "Alas, alas!" cried the farmer. "The truth must be told." And with deep bows he related his story. The governor listened and then meditated in silence. Finally, he lifted his head. "Shinano needs more than the strength of a youth," he said gravely. "Ah, that I should have forgotten the well-known saying, 'With the crown of snow there cometh wisdom.'" That very hour the cruel law was abolished, and the custom drifted into as far as past that only legends remain.
Did you like the story? Did you understand it? Let us see if you really understood the story of the aged mother. So you have to tell me what from our focus question. What was the cruel proclamation of the governor? Yes, Shinano was governed by a despotic leader, the governor, who sent out a cruel proclamation to immediately put to death all aged people. For better understanding of the story, I prepared Learning Task 4 entitled Cherish. Let's cherish all your answers in the following questions. What was the setting of the story? It happened long time ago at the foot of the mountain. Who were the characters in the story? Describe them. The characters in the story were the poor farmer, the despotic governor, the aged mother, and afraid Shinano people. What was the governor afraid of? Shinano was governed by a despotic leader, the governor, who, though a warrior, had a great and cowardly shrinking from anything suggestive of failing health and strength. That's why he gave a cruel proclamation, which served as the conflict in the story. So, what was the conflict in the story? The conflict of the story is that the despotic leader proclaimed a cruel order to immediately put to death all aged people. Those were considered as their barbarous days. And to think that abandoning of all aged people was not a common thing for them to do. Thinking of it, what was considered as the kindest mode of death based from the story? Yes, it was abandoning old people to die. We have there a mountain which was considered as abandoning of aged. What mountain was that? It is called the mountain Obatsuyama. The poor farmer decided to abandon his aged mother in the mountain Obatsuyama. He prepared for a painful journey going up to the mountain. He lifted his mother at his back. Why did the poor farmer change his mind in abandoning his mother in Obatsuyama? He realized that his mother loved him so much. Let us see the description of the mountain Obatsuyama. The road going up there was long and steep. It was crossed and recrossed by many paths made by hunters and woodcutters. The aged mother knew that her son did not know the many paths of the mountain, and she thought that her son would lose his way going down from the mountain. So she stretched her hand, snapped the twigs from the bushes as they passed by. Then she quietly dropped them down on the road, which served as the narrow paths of her son when he went down from the mountain. The poor farmer realized how his mother loved him so much, in spite of what he was planning to do with his mother. So together, they went down from the mountain of Obatsuyama, and together they faced the problem. Time passed, and the poor farmer was beginning to feel safe, when again the governor sent forth heralds bearing an unreasonable order. The question now is, what was the other unreasonable order of the governor? His demand was that his subject should present him with a rope of ashes. The entire province trembled with dread until the aged mother thought of the answer on how to do it. The governor was pleased with the youth, but he needed to know where that idea came from, until he discovered that that idea came from the mother of the poor farmer. The governor then realized that Shinano needs more than strength of the youth, and he also remembered a well-known saying, "With the crown of the snow there cometh a wisdom." Then from that day on, the cruel law was abolished. What is the theme of the story? We can say that the themes of the story are mother's love, as well as valuing old people. Remember, when a person ages, he or she gains more knowledge. Let us see, if you were the farmer, what are you going to do with your old mother if the President of the Philippines wants old mothers to die alone in the mountain? Did you understand the story now? Did you learn something from it? So let me see, what lesson have you learned from the story? I hope that you learned something for today. Always show your love to your loved ones, to your elders. So for the meantime, I will leave this 100% real talk. Respect your elders and the world will respect you. That's all for today. Goodbye. God bless us. Thank you.